Hello and welcome to this edition of Takeaway Tuesday, where we're going to conduct a two-part series on developing your skills as a forensic interviewer. We would also ask that if you like the content, if this information has been beneficial to you, please hit the like button and subscribe, and also hit the bell for future notifications. So today we're going to be interviewing Kim Madden. And Kim, you are a longtime interviewer as well as a trainer. What would you like to tell the group about your experience?
So, as you said, I'm a longtime interviewer. I have been conducting forensic interviews in some type of children's advocacy center setting or hospital-based. That's actually where I got my start, working at a teaching hospital doing medical evaluations of child maltreatment. 28 years.
And Kim, I think that's something that we both, having been in the field for so many years, one of the things that we're seeing is this shift in how we're thinking about onboarding or developing forensic interviewers. Certainly, I know when I very first started as an interviewer, the idea would be that I would go to one protocol training, which I did.
Yeah.
And once I attended that 1 week training, I would know everything there was to know about conducting forensic interviews with children. And I didn't, and that was problematic. What do you see as the problem with this one-off approach?
So one of the big problems with that approach is I think we and other protocols across the country do an excellent job in these types of foundational trainings, providing knowledge about forensic interviewing. It's also some opportunities for skill development, some practicum, but the skills that are required to be an effective interviewer are vast, and there's no way to teach all of those skills in that setting, plus all the foundational knowledge that's important for interviewers to have, things like what is a narrative encouraging question, what are some of the instructions that we want to include, what is the purpose of doing a narrative practice, how to do that effectively. That knowledge is essential, but the skill development really needs to take place after the training so people can get into a forensic interview, start to see how things that they learned in training apply, and to really begin that process of developing those skills.
What are the skills that you believe would be, if we're going to talk about maybe tiers, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, what are some of the skills that would be involved in tier 1?
So foundational skills are going to be like the ability to recognize different question types and to know what those are, how to encourage narrative from a child, certainly how to understand all the components of a structure and to be able to go all the way through that, and when to pose those more focused questions, those WH types of questions, but then also knowing how to encourage narrative. So coming away from basic foundational training with at least one good narrative encouraging prompt. Most of the time it's going to be that tell me more about XYZ. And I think we're happy if interviewers can leave our training and take that home, that's a good start. But that's certainly not where if we all just stayed there, that wouldn't be very helpful for children, because ultimately, just like the skills are complex, the situations that come to us are equally complex, and we need those skills to be able to navigate those challenging forensic interviews.
As we go up the tiers, what will we need to see or want to see with tier 2 skill development?
So with tier 2 skill development, again, thinking of the category of asking those narrative encouraging questions, that's where we would want to see a proficiency with different prompt types. So moving away, some alternatives to the tell me more, being able to consistently incorporate the child's language in your prompts, and building and on social support. And I didn't mention that with tier 1, but I think that's a good tier 1 skill, to recognize when a child is upset and know what to do if a child says, I'm scared. But then in tier 2, having some more nuanced ability to recognize. So perhaps a child doesn't articulate any type of a feeling, but there's a facial expression, or there's something that the interviewer picks up on. So being able to navigate those things as well. So kind of those are the tier 2 skills. And there's just no way to develop those without the foundation to build upon and to practice, to get into those forensic interview situations, to be challenged with those types of situations in children, and to learn ways to navigate.
So with tier 2, it's taking what we know as foundational, but it's honing those particular skills, kind of developing them out. And you gave the example that of a child saying, oh, I'm scared. And what we often hear, unfortunately, is an interviewer will say, well, this is a safe place. And so what do we say instead of a safe place would be more of a tier 2 type of response, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So just knowing, and you're absolutely right, we don't want to say it's a safe place. Our forensic interview centers, CICs, are really safe places, but we have to acknowledge that children come to us lots of times feeling extremely unsafe or having no baseline. The word is meaningless to them because they've really never had that sense of safety in their lives, so they can't determine, oh, I'm safe here. They've never felt safe. So yes, I would say a tier 1 skill would just be to recognize that and to resist that urge to talk the child out of that feeling, essentially, and just say, tell me about being scared. And then following up with tier 2, it's more, I think, to certainly if children articulate emotions, but in tier 2, even if the child doesn't articulate, really sensing those opportunities where you can have a good emotional inquiry. How are you feeling about being here? Something the child may be sad, or just a look that they get on their face. I think that's probably a higher level of skill.
So maybe recognizing that facial expression, we're not labeling it, but we're taking that opportunity to ask the child to let us know, to educate us about their internal thoughts or feelings at that point.
Yeah, it's such a great point, Andra. Forensic interviewers never ever label. If you come from a therapy background, you may be proficient at this. That may feel very comfortable to have a child with you and they're making a face and you can say you seem like you're sad. We cannot do that in forensic interviews, but we can always ask. If we see a sad look come over the child's face, or they just make this sign indications that they're very disgusted, perhaps feel ashamed about what they're telling you, to say, how are you feeling about our conversation right now? And give that child the opportunity to be informative.
So, Kim, you're saying that would be maybe a tier 2.
Definitely.
What about tier 3? What are we looking at as far as a tier 3 skill?
So tier 3, continuing to build, asking a good variety of narrative encouraging prompts. And I would say taking that social support further, just consistently throughout the whole interview, from the time that door closes, to really have a good sense of where that child is emotionally. And the other part of that, and I see this as a tier 3 skill as well, to know where you are at emotionally as the interviewer. Because we all know that when interviewers get frustrated, that leads you down the road of bad practice very often. We research that supports that. So those are two kind of things to balance. Really being able to ask good narrative encouraging questions, to keep close track of what the child has told you in response to those narrative encouraging questions, to determine what's missing from the narrative. And it's where that critical thinking comes in to weigh, okay, there's some information that's missing. What's going to be the best way that I can go about getting that information? But also to weigh in that moment, is this information that the child developmentally can give me? Is it knowable for this child? Is it necessary for this investigation? Might there be some alternative sources to get this information that we can, not have the child give it to us by asking a bad question?
Yeah.
So I think, again, that I would say that is a solid tier 3.
And it takes time and it takes continual effort in order to build these skills. We are going to be talking in our next episode, Kim, about how we go about building these skills and retaining these skills as a forensic interviewer, and so much. So we're taking our foundational skills that you learn in your protocol training, and we're building, and we're continuing to build and to develop and to hone. And we are going to talk about how we do that in our very next episode. If you'd like more information, please check out calio.org. Also look at the NCAC Virtual Training Center for different webinars and seminars that have been recorded with experts in the field. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please email me at the link below. Thanks and have a great day.